We continue our coverage of the Behind the Bid series where we are investigating what happened and what is happening with the procurement that began early last year to develop Simon Sanchez High School. We have pieced together a timeline and we have been able to review documents and hours of negotiation meetings that were made public, and to piece together how this story might have went. And the latest thing that we have and that we are going to show you tonight is a document that we found publicly available. That is the conditional acceptance of Cortex proposal, which does, in fact, over the past several days, we have been bringing you coverage of inferences from the negotiation meetings that whatever the final product was, at a certain point, there was an acceptance of an offer by the government of Guam. And we know that because in November, I think it was November 18, if I'm not mistaken, November 18, 2025, there was a scheduled groundbreaking for Simon Sanchez High School. And in order to get to that point, there has to be something that's signed. There has to be something that lets you go forward. While we haven't found the contract, the draft contract, or whatever contract was signed, what we have found is the conditional acceptance that shows that, yes, indeed, as we've been reporting over the past several days, the plan from the beginning was the $16.3 million for 30 years at $489 million in total, plus two additional payments of $16.3 million that they were going to finagle out of the Guam legislature. We will talk about these issues, and I'll show you this letter on the other side of the commercial break. Stick with us.
Imagine Guam led by proven and effective leaders. Leaders with a record of service and success in lifting our island and her people from challenges and hardships that continue to plague our families and neighborhoods. The leaders we choose this election will make the difference between harder times or a safe, prosperous, and peaceful Guam. Frank Blas Jr. has led Guam out of difficult times throughout his career as a police officer, to his role as Guam's Homeland Security Advisor, and as your Senator and Speaker. And now, as our Governor, he will once again lead the charge to clean up our streets, protect our families and businesses, put drug dealers away for a long time, and let the region know that Guam is open for business once again. No other candidate can protect our people like Frank Blas Jr. Vote Frank Blas Jr. for Governor and Dr. Mary Okada for Lieutenant Governor. Tested, trusted leaders.
I kind of wonder how much longer we as an electorate, as a society, as a body politic, have to put up with these things that happen all the time, for as long as anybody can remember. For people who are older than me, their memories going back to the beginning of how they remembered the government of Guam working in our period of self-government, right? That this has always happened. This has always been the way. There has always been. Sorry, my dog Oliver is getting excited that my boyfriend came home. Oliver, stop. Come here, Oliver. Come, let me show you to everybody because you're so cute. This is Oliver. Isn't he so pretty? He's also loud. There's always been this transactionalism that disguises itself and bastardizes the Chamorro cultural value of chenchuli, or reciprocity, where, they bastardize what that has always meant in a reciprocal society that depends on one each other, on basically a socialist society that the Chamorro society used to be, right? And bastardizing it to be essentially corruption, theft, transactionalism. For the longest time, the people who we elect into office, not all of them, but many of them, have been finagled into doing things, and whether it's because they received some sort of personal benefit or campaign contribution or influence somewhere from people who have the resources, have the money, have the influence, they do things for those people. And I don't know, I'm not saying that that's what was done here, even though in the recordings, one of the things that was said that in order to get one of these payments through for fiscal year 2027 of $16.3 million, Ho Yun said that he would have to donate more money to senators, to their campaigns. And you heard the people in the room on the government side all laughing about that as though it was just such a common thing. And what we're talking about here is, it's egregious because of how long the politicians and how many of the politicians on both sides of the aisle, and how just such a small group of men who control the development side of things have manipulated, especially the students of Simon Sanchez High School, but also this entire island, into believing that these people have given one damn about Simon Sanchez High School since 2013. All of the politicians involved are responsible for this failure. Some less responsible than others, some who tried to do the right thing but landed themselves in the minority of voices. And maybe that speaks to how strong the transactionalism is, right? But this entire time, 2013 to 2026, 13 years of broken promises, empty promises, and all because of the transactions. And this latest one, and we're able to piece this together because of documents in this procurement that are publicly available, and also taped recordings of 6 publicly known negotiation meetings, which are not all of the negotiation meetings. There had to have been more. 5 of those recordings are available. One of them, we are told, was lost in the cloud, whatever that means, however that plays out. In a procurement that is on an automatic stay, because the developer who says that they offered to build Simon Sanchez for $80 million, which is more than $100 million less than what Cortec put in their price tag. And you have to imagine, you have to imagine that the debt service on an $80 million construction versus $190, $160, $140 million construction would be about $200 million less overall. Because what Cortec wanted to do, and what the government of Guam was willing to give up, according to these negotiation meetings, was receive $16.3 million yearly for 30 years. That's the cap. The legislature allowed that maximum. So in these negotiation meetings, you didn't hear the government side try one time to lower that amount, even by $1. $16.3 million times 30 over the 30-year period, $489 million. But they weren't enough with that. Throughout these negotiation meetings, the 5 that were recorded, you hear consistently Ho Yun discussing ways and planning ways with the government negotiators to get the legislature to appropriate another $16.3 million in fiscal year 2026, which they did, and another $16.3 million in fiscal year 2027, which is a budget process that's happening right now, for a total of $521 million for one government facility. Just one. We're going to be on the hook for $521 million if Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio's bill that would have ramrodded this procurement through prior to the discovery of these taped recordings, on the eve of the discovery of these taped recordings, tried to get this through knowing. Remember, the senators didn't know prior to the tape recordings. The senators didn't know what was happening. There wasn't any public anything about the actual cost. But the lieutenant governor knew. The governor knew. The administration knew. And they were willing to jam that down our throats $521 million over the next 32 years. And the why is always important, but I'm pretty sure a criminal investigation can figure that out. And I don't know if there is one. And I'm not the Attorney General or the FBI or the U.S. Attorney, but I have to imagine when an amount like that is swirling in a project that has taken 13 years to get off the ground and so many of the same players involved in the past 13 years and all this stuff, I have to imagine that some phones are bugged, that there is some type of an investigation happening into something like this. And I was hoping that we were wrong about the $16.3 million and that maybe by the time the November deal was sealed, that it wasn't the case, even though the legislature by that time, by fall of last year, already had made the $16.3 million appropriation. According to Senator Chris Duenas, the legislature did not know that it was an additional payment on top of the 30 years. They were led to believe by the administration, he said, that this was just to speed things along. So we found the document. I won't tell you how or what the source is, but it is publicly available. And let me just switch my screen so you can see what I see, what I view. And I'm going to send this document to senators, and I'm going to ask them about the 16 points, all 15 of them. And you know, the last time we asked all 15 of them about this whole thing, only 14 of them answered. And it was essentially whether they had discussed any of this procurement stuff with Cortec since June of last year when Cortec was selected. 14 senators wrote back and said, no, absolutely not. Not with Cortec, not with any of their representatives. You know who didn't reply? The only senator who failed to reply, to at least count herself out of any suspicion of mischief, Senator Tina Muñoz Barnes. So here is that letter, or here is that document, and let's go through it together. Note the date is November 17. This is an email from SSFM. They're the construction manager, to Donna Herrero over at Department of Public Works. Hi, Miss Donna. Please print email below regarding CTI's conduit issuers. The email below is from Lester Carlson to Joe Duenas, John Wang from ORIC. ORIC is the government's bond counsel. Christine Rankin from ORIC. Ed Byrne from the Department of Administration. Copied to Tina Garcia, the GITA administrator. Vince Areola, the DPW director. Linda Ibanez, the DPW deputy director. John Kalanayan, I cannot remember his position, but he's at DPW. Eric Swanson, who was the superintendent of education at the time. Oh, he has a PhD, so we'll call him Dr. Eric Swanson. You know, I think it's kind of silly how Judy Wampat wants everyone to call her a doctor when she's just got an EDD. Anyway, Carla Masnayan, the principal of Simon Sanchez High School. Cedric Cruz from Taniguchi Ruth. Wait, I'm sorry, I'm not sure. I don't know what TRA Guam is. Terrence Brooks he's a lawyer. Tom Keeler from the Attorney General's office. Joe Guthrie, AG's office, and the DPW SSHS construction management team. Hafide Joe, writes Lester, Cortec International confirmed their conduit issuer will be the National Finance Authority in New Hampshire. Still awaiting confirmation from Cortec on who the trustee and co-trustee or paying agent will be. That's an interesting sentence, and I recently learned about this. So, and you know what? I will I'll reserve comment on that. I just see that that's an interesting statement because of banking. Anyway, continuing on. I note the construction contract used to build JFK appears to be a DPW contract format with the contractor penned in as IBC. Joe, please send the insurance and maintenance agreement to this group first before sending to Cortec. Edward needs to chime in on the insurance coverage details. A few minutes before that, Thuy Nguyen from SSFM writes to Donna Herrero, please print this for filing. CTI signed the contract. Okay. So I don't know if this is I don't think this is the contract, and the contract is not in this document, but this is the conditional acceptance of CTI proposal. And note on the letterhead, Lulian Guro, the governor, the lieutenant governor, Josh Tenorio, and these three people who probably have a lot of answering to do before the legislature: Vince Arreola, the director, Linda Ibanez, the deputy director, and Ernie Candeleta Jr., the deputy director. In a letter addressed to Ho Yun on September 22, 2025, which is 24 days or 25 days after the August 29, 6th negotiation meeting with the negotiating team, called Conditional Acceptance of CTI Proposal for the New Simon Sanchez High School Finance, Design, Demolish, Build, Lease, Maintenance. Buenas Zanhafa. Thank you for your continued partnership with the government of Guam. We hereby inform you that we have conditionally accepted your proposal dated August 22. DPW also acknowledges receipt of CTI's letter dated August 29, 2025, which is deemed non-responsive under the RFP and therefore rejected. As noted in our most recent meeting between Cortec International and the government of Guam, the Department of Public Works and the Department of Education agreed to seek legal guidance before proceeding. Following review and in accordance with the Makahat Act, 5 GCA Chapter 58D, and the requirements of the request for proposal, project number 730-5-1059-L-YIG, as amended by Addendum 1, we are writing to confirm acceptance of your proposal subject to the following conditions. Number 1, subject to appropriation. This is the part that confirms the additional 2 payments. Your proposal and the government's acceptance are expressly subject to annual legislative appropriations as required under subsection 58D109B of the Makahat Act, which provides that all leaseback payments must be appropriated annually by Legislaturan Guahan. Accordingly, no obligation shall arise unless and until the legislature enacts the annual leaseback appropriations and the 2 additional construction appropriations, and the government of Guam shall have no liability in the absence of such appropriations. Although legislative action on the fiscal year 2026 budget has not yet taken place, the sum of $16.3 million is included in Bill 44-38 specifically for Simon Sanchez High School pre-construction. The government of Guam cannot guarantee a similar action will take place in FY 2027, but we will extend our best efforts to work with the 38th Guam Legislature to secure this funding. Programmatic compliance. The school shall be designed and constructed consistent with the programmatic documents, including Wing A, Wing B, Wing C, and the auditorium, together with all FF&E and program elements identified in the RFP and Addendum 1. This requirement reflects DPW's August 15, 2025 letter and Addendum 1 responses confirming that all FF&E and all program elements must be delivered in the final project scope. Leaseback terms. The leaseback period shall commence upon completion of the project and acceptance by the government of Guam as required by subsection 58D103B of the Makahat Act, which authorizes leasebacks only after project completion and limits the leaseback period to no more than 30 years from that date. At the end of the lease period, title to the school and its furniture, fixtures, and equipment transfer to the government of Guam. This acceptance is made in full compliance with the Makahat Act and the governing RFP, ensuring that the procurement process remains fair, transparent, and defensible. This letter constitutes the government's firm and final offer. Pursuant to the RFP provisions regarding failure to negotiate with the best qualified proposer, Cortec International must confirm acceptance of these terms within 3 business days of receipt. Failure to comply will result in termination of negotiations, and the government will proceed with the next most qualified proposer. No protest is available